Right now on the National Weather Desk, severe storm damage, powerful winds and rain caused damage and flooding across multiple states. We are in the hardest hit areas with complete coverage.
By the time we got in the car to go, this had all happened.
More than 3 months after wildfires devastated Southern California, investigators are back searching for a cause.
We're applying some testing to some of our hypotheses.
We'll look ahead to the upcoming hurricane season.
Sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic basin are generally warmer than normal.
Hear from a storm chaser as one state tries to regulate the industry.
You can't separate the danger from the adventure.
And how the Great Lakes can create mini cold fronts.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. More severe storms are on tap today, one day after powerful winds and pounding rain left a trail of damage from Oklahoma to New York. We start in Missouri, where this tornado was spotted yesterday morning in the southwest part of the state. The National Weather Service observed 90-mile-per-hour winds at the airport, damaging a maintenance facility, but apparently leaving nearby planes unscathed. High winds damaged roofs of multiple buildings just outside of St. Louis. An elementary school and church were also damaged. That same community also faced flash flooding as the heavy rain was too much for a normally quiet creek. Adam Woodbury has more on the damage near Springfield.
People in Monett surveying the damage and cleaning up after a powerful storm rolled through Tuesday morning.
I was at home in my shelter about 2 miles south of here. So, yeah, it was quite the storm. You could see the wind just swirl in different directions.
Ken Madison opened this storage unit on the west side of town about 3 years ago. What was once a brand new facility, now a pile of debris. He said he found out what happened about 10 minutes after the storm hit. Now he's here helping his renters recover what they can.
I'd called everybody and told them I'd help them get their stuff out, so they're here one at a time.
In other parts of town, the chainsaws are out cutting up trees that have fallen over. This one suspended by the power lines.
We were preparing to go to the shelter, and then the storm came.
Stephen Bergeron said much of the damage to his property happened before he even left to go to the storm shelter. The tree on top of his house isn't even his. It belongs to his neighbor.
By the time we got in the car to go, this had all happened. I was in the house, I heard a really loud bang, which must have been this, and a crack, which probably was that.
In western Pennsylvania, one person was killed after coming into contact with live power lines while trying to put out a mulch fire. The strong winds also blew down a barn, trapping several animals inside. We understand several cows were rescued last night. The winds were also strong enough to knock down a cell tower, as well as many trees, both large and small. Many homes are also damaged as the wind blew the siding into yards. As the storm system rolled across western New York, it brought hail to several places. This is the town of Avon, about 20 miles south of Rochester. The high winds knocked down some trees, but there was no major damage. In Ohio, the storm toppled massive trees and power lines near Dayton. Some neighbors said the winds were so strong, they sounded like a jet engine, but they only lasted about 30 seconds. While there's plenty of debris to clean up, no one was hurt. There was also damage to clean up in Oklahoma. Christina Santiago is just outside Tulsa with the details.
When we got here, there was a tree, that big tree right there was laying across the road, and then there was another tree right here, and they were both actually laying on the corner of that house, and then of course those cars were buried in that as well.
As we drove around Grove, we saw significant damage to roofs, vehicles, and even power lines. City crews are already on the scene helping with recovery and rebuilding. But amid the destruction, Larry says what stands out is the community's response.
It's kind of nice to see everybody pull together, you know, really. It's kind of neat to see people really care and stuff, come out here and run chainsaws and stuff. That don't even have to be here, you know. And I'm kind of like that too. It's just kind of exciting to go out here and help.
And there's a threat for more severe weather again today. A 3 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center, including a medium risk for tornadoes across the Dallas region. A slightly lower risk will exist across North Texas, southern Oklahoma, and western Arkansas with large hail and damaging winds. The storm threat continues tomorrow over a large area from central Texas to Ohio. Thunderstorms could produce strong to severe winds and hail. A wildfire is burning in the southeastern part of Arizona. The Stronghold fire already has burned more than 2,300 acres and is threatening homes and businesses. Fire officials say the blaze is not yet contained. John McCluso talked with local residents who say they are worried the wind could push the fire in their direction.
Bob Dixon is the owner of 1764 Vineyards, an area that is currently under the ready stage for evacuations. He tells me yesterday began as just another day until the Stronghold fire started.
You look out the window and the whole mountain's covered in fire or covered in smoke, and a little panic set in.
And though there's been some improvement, Dixon is still concerned the wind may change direction, pushing the fire back towards the vineyard.
We got our cars and everything loaded up and ready to go just in case. So it's just a whole lot of waiting and watching, and that's all you can do.
We also caught up with Pat Vicario, a resident that one of our crews spoke to yesterday. He shares Dixon's concerns and tells me he's been watching the fire closely since it began.
I watched the fires all night at home with my spotting scope, and they seemed to be stationary once the wind stopped.
He shared with me his concerns as the fire continues to burn.
We're just standing by because all it takes is one wind shift, and that fire can travel from those mountains to my house a couple miles down the road like that. So we're staying prepared.
One common concern brought up to me by everyone I talked to today is the wind. It's what really set this fire off yesterday and what continues to have firefighters concerned today.
As bad as it was, everything came out pretty good for yesterday. It doesn't mean, you feel the wind now. It doesn't mean things can change drastically, but we're ready if it does.
Fire burned overnight in the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles again, but this time it was on purpose. As Jasmine Veal explains, officials hope it helps determine how the Palisades wildfire started earlier this year.
Agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives unloading equipment near the Skull Rock Trailhead in Topanga State Park. They are preparing to conduct a controlled fire test for several hours Tuesday night as part of their investigation into the origin and cause of the deadly and destructive Palisades fire.
All we're doing tonight is we're applying some testing to some of our hypotheses.
ATF Special Agent and Certified Fire Investigator Matt Beals explains how they will ignite the fire in this metal bin with flames no larger than 15 feet at times.
So the testing is going to involve a propane burner and propane gas. There's not going to be any solid fuels that are ignited. There's not going to be any sort of like controlled burn or anything along those lines. It's simply a steel propane burner. It's a little bit bigger than your backyard barbecue grill.
He says this fire will help them narrow down their investigation to an origin of the fire and eliminate potential causes.
Flame location, flame size is helpful to kind of, if you will, like replaying a movie in reverse, where you're trying to bring it back to its smallest spot, that you can do that within a reasonable degree of scientific certainty.
It's not just severe storms being picked up on radar this week. Recently, birds have been showing up on weather radars stationed all across the country. Meteorologist Noah Hawk explains how and why this is happening.
Right now, all across the United States, birds are beginning their northern migration as things are starting to warm up. And based on this graphic just to my left here, there's an estimated 334 million birds to migrate just after sunset, which is their favorite time to migrate. But it's something called the birdcast, and we actually use weather radar in order to pick them up. But I first want to explain how radar works. We're going to use something called a Doppler radar just over here to my right. It's going to have a satellite dish on the inside that's going to send waves of energy out into the atmosphere, and it's going to want to get that reflection back. So we're going to see it send it out to the cylinder right here. The cylinder is going to reflect it back to that satellite dish, and the reflection that that dish picks up is what's actually going to be put on that radar. So think about it, when we have storms, we're going to have that green, that yellow, and that red for heavy rain. That's based on that reflection that we get from those raindrops. And as we take a look at an example from May of 2022, you're going to notice all across the U.S., all the way as far down as Texas, and all the way far north as Vermont, those birds are beginning to migrate, but because birds aren't as close together as raindrops, they're only going to show up in that green and a blue color, which is actually a level below that green level.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, last weekend marked 7 months since Helene made landfall in Florida before moving over the southern Appalachians. We'll look back at what made the storm so catastrophic and will help you better understand wind shear.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A peaceful sunrise view of the shimmery Great Salt Lake waters from the Antelope Island Causeway, a roughly 7-mile stretch and the only road to access the island. Meanwhile, sunrise in Kalamazoo and central Illinois pack their own beauty, along with this snapshot of a pretty morning along the Erie Canal.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
Last weekend marked 7 months since Helene made landfall. The storm churned inland, unleashing a torrent of floodwater and destruction. Meteorologist Dave Dirks takes a look back at the 2024 tropical season, explains why Helene turned catastrophic over the southern Appalachians, and looks ahead to this year's tropical season.
2024 was an active year in the tropics. There were 18 named storms, 11 hurricanes, 5 of which made landfall in the United States. Now, of course, one of those was Hurricane Helene. Several factors came together to make Helene a catastrophic storm for our region, including a tropical connection that brought what we call predecessor rains to the southern Appalachians days before landfall. Helene, a powerful Category 4 storm, and it was moving very fast after landfall in the Big Bend section of Florida, reaching our region within 18 hours. And it came in from a worst-case scenario direction. It's interesting to note, though, that there have been 26 storm centers that have come within 60 miles of the Tri-Cities in the past 150 years, 8 in the past 20 years. Now, looking ahead to this season, this past year's La Nina conditions have been transitioning to neutral. However, according to Dr. Gray and the tropical experts at Colorado State University, there still is some uncertainty as to what the phase will be later this summer and fall. Sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic basin are generally warmer than normal, but not as warm as last year at this time. But still, CSU expects an above normal hurricane season. They're predicting 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. Here's a breakdown on the chance of a landfalling hurricane this season. No surprise here, Florida stands the highest chance, but pretty decent chances in North Carolina, Louisiana, and Texas.
We talk a lot about lake effect snow in the winter, but the Great Lakes impact weather conditions year-round and can provide relief from the heat during the warmer months. Meteorologist Eric Estrava explains how lake breezes work.
As the summertime temperatures return to the mid-Michigan area, we saw a couple lake breeze fronts or mini cold fronts setting up courtesy of Lake Huron. The reason that this happened was because as our temperatures on land warmed quicker than what they have been doing the last couple of weeks over the water, where our water temperatures are primarily in the 40s and 50s. Air temperatures right here at the ground as you moved inland were in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. That created a pressure difference with low pressure as we looked at the warmer conditions over land and high pressure over water. That caused sinking air to occur over water with rising air here over land. That pressure difference allowed for those winds to shift from offshore to onshore, which brought some of that cooler lake-modified air inland, and it acted as a cold front. It did work slowly through the area, so it took several hours for that lake breeze to pretty much envelop the entire area. But high pressure, low pressure, it works on a smaller scale, just like the systems we see, giving us our weather from day to day.
Wind shear is a type of wind that doesn't come from storms or severe weather, but as elevation increases, wind shear can change speed and direction, and that can lead to prolonged storms. Meteorologist Brandon Stover explains.
First of all, the heart of the storm is what we call the updraft. This is a rising column of air that's moisture laden, that's warm, that's buoyant, if you will. It's willing to rise upwards, and updraft is what gives these storms the energy. Now, what goes up must come down. So all that air rising, Mother Nature wants to fill that void left at the surface. So we get a downdraft to come down to try to fill that void. And this is usually rain-cooled air. It can contain large hailstones sometimes within the downdraft portion of the storm. Now, during the summer months, we get weak winds aloft because the jet stream's naturally weaker. So this is what we call an air mass thunderstorm. So when you're wind shear is weak, you're going to get more of a vertical storm. So essentially, the updraft is going to get choked off by the developing downdraft. So storms get choked off, they're less likely to be severe and long-lived. They're pretty disorganized. However, when you add wind shear to the equation, you're tilting the thunderstorm over. And when you tilt that thunderstorm over, you're upping the odds of them turning severe by allowing the updraft and downdraft to work independently of one another. So it's a steady state system, or you could think of it as a supercell thunderstorm, much more likely to live longer, much more likely to produce severe weather.
Over the past several decades, the number of storm chasers during severe weather events has grown exponentially. It has led to dangerous situations, and some storm chasers have even lost their lives, not from a tornado, but from colliding with other vehicles. It's led the state of Oklahoma to examine some solutions to this issue. Meteorologist Emily Gracie sat down with a veteran storm chaser to learn more.
I've always said you can't separate the danger from the adventure, because once you do that, it's very boring. So I think most chasers in the back of their mind, they know it's very dangerous, but that's kind of one of those things that draws people to chasing.
Enter in Oklahoma trying to come up with a solution to these road hazards, which I guess I didn't think about this as driving as being such a hazard. So can you tell me what this bill in Oklahoma was attempting to do?
So what the Oklahoma legislators wanted to do was to give very select media, matter of fact, only TV crews and some researchers in the state, the ability, at first it was the ability to run code 3, just like a police car or a fire truck in storm situations. Now, you can only imagine in a storm situation adding 50 or 60 emergency vehicles to the mix, where chasers are going to have to pull over, where these vehicles can exceed the speed limit. They have all the rights of emergency vehicles. It would be insane. It would be not only insane for chasers, but can you imagine the mom or the dad who has to go pick their kid up at school and take them to a shelter, getting caught in this traffic mess and having to yield to all these emergency vehicles that are suddenly created? They're going to be driving fast. They're allowed to run red lights. So when you throw all this together, it would have been absolutely insanity. It would have been absolutely crazy.
That role that storm chasers have, what are they bringing to this field and to public safety?
But somebody needs to get all of these groups together and say, hey, people's lives are in danger. When there's a big tornado threatening Oklahoma City, for example, we need all the information we can get. We need both the local media, the TV crews, and we also need the chasers who are broadcasting live on social media to be able to get this information to both the public and the National Weather Service.
The bill in Oklahoma has been tabled for now, but Faintly believes it will be back, perhaps in other states as well. To hear more about the fascinating lifestyle of storm chasing, listen to the full interview on our podcast, Off the Radar. We are proud to announce it just won a National Headliner Award for Best Information Podcast. Remember, you can find Off the Radar anywhere you get your podcasts. Time now for a short break. We leave you with views from above of the Blue Ridge Mountains in the Shenandoah National Park.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's severe weather season, but what exactly is severe weather? Meteorologist Christian Bridges explains.
First, severe thunderstorms, which we see plenty of in the summer. That's any storm that has winds of 58 miles per hour or greater, and or hail that is greater than 1 inch. Next up is flash flooding, and it happens when we get an extreme amount of rain in about 6 hours or less, leading to rapid rises in water. And of course, we have tornadoes. They can be incredibly dangerous. So for flash flooding, severe storms, or tornadoes, the National Weather Service will issue a watch or a warning. When a watch is issued, it means that conditions are favorable for the development of severe weather, but it's not imminently occurring. To Conversely, when a warning is issued, it means that the threat is occurring or imminent, and you should take action to protect your life and your property. Now let's talk about some of those actions for tornadoes or even severe thunderstorms. The actions are pretty similar. You want to be in your basement or an interior room of your house to give as much protection as possible from the elements, with the basement being the best spot to be. When it comes to flash flooding, you want to get to higher ground as quickly as possible.